Obviously, the Pope was always linked with the Emperor. So if the Emperor of today is the President of the United States, but still under the Pope, because the spiritual blessing comes from the Pope.
Okay,
the Pope structure then
the Pope
has...
is a very old man. Is he really in charge, or is someone else in charge?
We have the Pope, then we have the Jesuits. And many people say, are the Jesuits in charge? The Jesuits are in charge for many years of the Secret Service of the Vatican.
Okay,
which is
but do
also...
you know these people?
Yes, I have photos, if you want, with the head Jesuit of the Interreligious Dialogue Department of the Jesuits. Well, my intention is to reveal tonight, whenever you're going to see this video, a few things that might shock you. Like, for example, the revelation that in the Vatican himself we have over 40 cardinals that are Muslim and that are practicing the Jerusalen, which is a specific holy book that the Muslims use for specific purposes, and called the Jerusalen Al-Kabiri. And this book is being left to the descendants of Muhammad for a specific purpose, also leading to the end of times.
What is the purpose?
To be able to control that evil, those evil forces that, for example, the majority, unfortunately, in the Vatican practices with the black masses, with the evocation of certain entities, with the use of these demons. Now, people must say, how is possible the Pope is evoking demons? Well, if you just do a little bit of brief history lessons and you go and study the history of the Vatican, you will find that from Papa Onofre to many other popes in the Vatican, they have been practicing magicians themselves, using evocations, publishing also material on these evocations, through who? The Jesuit order is in charge of the esoteric side of the Vatican. This has happened because the esoteric order is very important for the Vatican, as it includes all this secret information regarding the evocations and how they should be done. So, since the time of the Reformation, the Vatican didn't want the Protestant world to be left out of control. They said, okay, we might leave them independence, but in the meantime we have the Jesuits controlling them in any way possible, also through these links, like the secret societies, and then the Rosicrucians became corrupt and became themselves part of the Jesuit conspiracy in the 17th century.
Are you familiar with the SIV?
The SIV is a secret intelligence of the Vatican, supposedly, came into being during the period of the Second World War. The fact that it's still operative is a minus group of people compared to the secret service of the Vatican in the Knights of Malta. The Knights of Malta are the biggest secret service in the Vatican. They have diplomatic immunity, they have international sovereignty, they have a Grand Master which is totally sworn to believe that he has to be the true defender of the Pope, and inside his membership he has the head of the intelligence of the MI6, the head of the CIA, the head of an NSA. The top cosmic secret is for them no secret in the Vatican headquarters. When you are in charge of the Vatican Library, and the people in charge of the Vatican Library are the Jesuits, then you have the Knights of Malta. So basically the CIV what is? CIV was and still is, but limited compared to how it was used during the period of the Second World War, immediately after the Second World War, because after the Second World War it had to be used for the protection of those Nazis that needed to go in safe places in the hands of the Americans, in the hands of... So,
okay, why protect the Nazis?
Protect the Nazis because the Nazis themselves were actually born out of a conspiracy, if we want, to create Adolf Hitler and make sure that this being did what he did so they could then claim the Israel state. Everything in plan, so for the end of times the Jews have their land, as it's figured out in the ancient prophecies. So everything has to work in that way. So the Knights of Malta, as I said, are themselves the head intelligence operatives in the military field. The Jesuits in the information and disinformation field. I would like also to say that there is, unfortunately today, the disinformation coming from Jesuit headquarters. This information comes into being when Zaccaria Sitchin meets in the year 2000 in Bellaria with Corrado Balducci. Zachariah Sitchin also gets invited by the Pope, John Paul II, visits secretly the Pope in the Vatican, takes from him instructions to write his pile of rubbish, which is the End of Days book that he has brought into being lately.
You're saying Zachariah Sitchin was told to write this book and was instructed on what to write?
Zachariah Sitchin was indeed instructed because he can't tell the truth. This guy is deliberately spreading this information because he can't reveal really the truth without causing problems for his cause, the Zionist cause, the cause of the Vatican, which he has embraced.
Are you saying that Zachariah Sitchin is a member of what? The Illuminati?
Absolutely. Zachariah Sitchin is a member of the New World Order used to spread deliberate disinformation. Let's say, I want to just make you figure out how this happened. When, at the end of the 90s, in the alternative media, certain information started to spread, especially regarding these Anunnaki beings, call them Nephilims, call them however you know. Now, what are they really? Do they really want you to know what they are? No, they want you to know what they want, you know, how their idea that they want to spread is something of a pre-constructed idea, which is disinformation. It's not the real thing. If you knew in reality what these entities were, you would not even touch them. You would just drove the other way.
Well, tell us what is the real nature.
Okay, no, but I tell you just a second.
From your point of view.
No, but this is interesting how the Jesuits spread this information. A Jesuit contacted an Italian journalist in the UFO scene and spread a certain amount of disinformation, including the fact that the Civ was still the greatest intelligence in the Vatican. With what? With 100 people, a couple of Benedictine monks, a couple of nuns, and the Vatican includes millions of members worldwide. They all function as intelligence from the beginning of time. They all go to confessions. The Catholics, well, they are part of an intelligence system run by the Vatican. That's how it is from the beginning of time. So they definitely don't need only one apparatus that can control. Then, if you go and study the history of the Civ, you see that it's a Jesuit-based thing that is full of Jesuits. So, and then, on top of that, who is running the astronomic laboratories for the Vatican? The Jesuits. For example, in Mount Graham in Arizona, nobody asks what is happening. I can tell you what is. I can tell you also what they're doing.
Well, tell me.
So people. So this information goes through, and then hits the appropriate sources, and they can say, okay, there is a Jesuit footage of Planet X. Another pile of the biggest pile of rubbish ever, could only come out of the minds of the Jesuits. Why? Because the Jesuits are very intelligent. They can figure out how to take, sorry if I say very lower, the piss out of anybody, because they are really masters of deception. I work with them. I will show you some picture after of these people, but how they work is...
But what is their motive for this disinformation?
So you want to know more about the entities. Now, who is spreading this? How they think? Zachariah Sitchin met with Corrado Balducci. Who is Corrado Balducci? Corrado Balducci is not only the official spokesman for the UFO in the Vatican. You understand? This is just a front. Who is he? He's a demonologist.
Okay.
The biggest exorcist in the Vatican.
Right.
That should already make you think, okay, there is a connection here between the alien myth and the demonology.
Mm-hmm.
Now we found also that this connection is very much alive when most of the people who have spread the disinformation regarding the alien beings have been from the time of Aleister Crowley, his followers of Hubbard, or whatever. But the people that have been deliberately spreading this information. But to a certain extent, Hubbard knew the truth as well as Crowley, because they said themselves, I mean, it was Crowley who said, you call them gods, then we call them angels. In 50 years we will call them something else. He showed the image of the lamb, which was the first image resembling an alien being. This is genies. In Islam we call them genies.
But by any other name, what are we talking about? We're talking about spirits. We're talking about a demon is nothing other than a spirit being, a being, who is perhaps not incorporated in the material world.
No, it can incorporate. The thing is that there is a certain degree of misconception. Okay, let me tell you exactly what are these UFOs. UFO unidentified beings, okay, or objects that fly around. Either they are military stealth operations, which can't be disclosed, or either they are operations regarding the evocation of genies, coming from other dimensions. So, an interdimensional door is created, is opened up. Where can these interdimensional doors can be opened up? In certain spaces, certain places, certain holy ground from ancient times known to possess that's possibility.
For example,
purpose. For example,
in Iraq, for example.
No, just go to Mount Graham and study a bit what the Jesuits are doing up there. There is a war between the American natives, Indians, and the Jesuits since the Jesuits have tried to build this observatory. And why is that? Because the Indians have used that mountain as holy ground for thousands of years, and there is a specific entity living on top of that mountain, but on another dimension. When he wants, he can be called upon this dimension and evoked. The Jesuits, what they want to do. In the meantime, they accuse the American Indians, oh, these are pagans, what are they doing to us? So we have to do science, observe the stars. Oh, rubbish. What they're doing, they are, yes, observing the stars and the planets. Why? Because you always have to reflect above, below, whatever, you know, this rule of the Emerald Tablets of Hermes. I don't need to go on with what is the main rule of the Freemasons, also to reflect below what is above. But it is to evoke these entities in a specific time frame, and this has to be carefully calculated. What is magic? The magic is the calculation of the arts with peculiar calculations around the symbols to evoke certain entities and have from them, if you want, certain gratifications. You can work with them. I, for example, can tell you a story which is a family story from a relative of my wife actually, who I think his uncle or his grand uncle, whatever, who started working with these entities, these genes. Why? Because he had a little, how you say, a little ranch style, American style, you call it ranch, how you call it, you know.
A ranch?
Yeah, where you have animals, where you have, where you're planting things. So he was alone. He wanted to find some workers. This guy was very clever because he knew certain secret codes within the Quran that shouldn't be used. He knew how to use them. He knew that reciting certain prayers in a continuous motion, he will evoke certain presences, and eventually he got to make a deal with them, and they were working for him at night in the fields, doing all the field work, and a lot of Americans say, wow, I would love to have that going on in my place, you know. I could have a couple of these genies coming to work for me. But that means subjecting yourself to those entities. That guy had to sell his soul. More than that, he would be enslaved by those forces for the rest of his life. In fact, he had to continuously recite these prayers and then not recite it at certain times and whatever, otherwise he will create for himself a disaster. And so,
okay, well then let's talk about you, for example.
And these entities also do the same thing as what the Americans call abduction. I found reports in Middle Eastern villages, many Middle Eastern villages, of abductions. But how they're not going to go to an American researcher and say, I saw the UFO. You're not going to find anything. Instead, these entities have appeared, have manifested, not only have took people on inside their dimension, in their own in their own kingdom. They have basically kidnapped people, sometimes beaten them up, and then thrown them back into this dimension. And this happened many times. But obviously, for the Middle Eastern person, they call it
genes. So basically, you were just using a different language to deal with these entities.
We're definitely using.
Who cares what you call them?
I know, but we have to be specific here, because the moment you call them UFO, you are doing exactly what the enemy wants you to do. The moment you call them aliens, you're doing exactly what the enemy wants you to do.
Let's talk about your background a little bit.
No, but let's finish about Planet X, because Planet X is very important. If we don't finish...
Sure, we want to go there, but I'd like to first talk about, you must have evolved, you have not sold your soul, is this correct?
at a certain time I sold my soul. I hope that God will grant me that I will be forgiven for what I did, and I will be able
because
to...
you did evocation, you must do this as do you consider yourself a master at this point? You're 33-degree Mason. 33
degrees, an honorary title which I didn't give much importance. The 90 and 95 of the Memphis and Mizraim, which is an Illuminati rite of the Freemasons, which is itself a specific Egyptian rite, I give a bit more importance because there is a lot more esoteric, evocational knowledge to...
Sure, and you must have meditated and prepared yourself and have the ability to do certain kinds of magic yourself, right?
But I was prepared for, since I was a kid, to enter a reality which was very different probably from the mainstream reality. My grandmother, English grandmother, was called Felicity Mason, well known in the scene as Aim Coming for having written a book called The Love Habit. She was a very high degree member of the Illuminati. She gave me the first book of Aleister Crowley as a gift when I was 11 years old. It was the Book of Thought. And from her I learned a lot of things. She had friends, incredible friends. I mean, you can go and check, even on the internet, the friends of Felicity Mason was Brian Giles and William Burroughs. William Burroughs, one of her best friends. And I met incredible people, from the Pet Shop Boys to Sting, to all the singers, the rock artists, but at the same time also the writers, very avant-garde. I met Brian Gyson in person more than one time.
Well,
I met also when I was...
magic and not be an evil person, isn't that right?
No, that's the thing. Unfortunately, I discovered after many years, and I have to say, this is the final result of my studies, that if you want to stay within the magic realm of respect for God and everything, I mean, magic exists. You can stay in its magic realm, but you don't have to move anything and become an active part of it, because that's dangerous. It's forbidden to do any magic in my new religion, which is Islam, what I've embraced. It's forbidden because it's too dangerous. So I will also advise people that are entering the New Age kind of scenario, where you have a lot of this spiritual practice that are somehow misleading, and most of them also manipulated by the usual Jesuits, like the hexagram. Now, the whole thing brought by Gurdjieff. But go and study who is dealing now with this system and who has been behind this system now. And you will see the usual Jesuits, the fact that the Jesuits are even present in the New Age movement is not acknowledged by the New Agers, but they should wake up. If this information from the alien department, the planet texts, or whatever other spiritual practice is coming filtered from them, it's because there is a reason. They don't want you to perceive the real matter, the real reality.
What is the real reality then?
The real reality is that we are definitely in a constant fight between angels and demons, between the devil, Iblis, who represents the dark side, and God. Now, if we accept that everything in nature or around us is itself part of God,